Hi,
Oh,
Colm.
hi Josh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thank you. Awesome to be able to speak to you as a big fan of yours, and thank you so much for taking the time today to chat about this film.
Pleasure, pleasure.
So I'm curious to begin with, as an actor, when you're approached with a smaller role like this one, which is so incredibly important to the protagonist's story, how do you go about approaching a part like this?
Well, it's usually, because it's so condensed, it tends to be kind of in the writing. It's like, I mean, obviously you read the whole script to get the context, and you don't just read, you don't just read the one scene. But so you can see the context of the character in terms of the story, and that gives you a lot of insight into what you're doing. Um, I it reminds me of a similar one in Gangs of London a number of years ago, where basically I was dead in the first scene of the movie, but then and I got a lot of response to that. I remember wondering why. I mean, I was shot in the face in the first scene, you know, and you realize that, I mean, there are the flashback scenes, of course, but then you realize that in the context of the whole series, the shooting of him was what kicked the whole thing off. So it's kind of very much in people's minds. So I suppose the old hackneyed saying of "there are no small parts" rings true sometimes. That there's smaller parts can have a big influence, a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, as you say, this does have a huge impact on that Scarlett character. And I'm curious, did
Yeah,
you discuss any backstory with Neil and Charlotte? We see he's called Mad Frank. He alludes to something that happened in the
yeah,
past.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, which kind of made you think maybe you should play him completely mad, but we decided not to. That it's more to do with his reputation in his before he was incarcerated. Put it that way. That he had a tendency to real violence, and that kind of led to the tag, kind of mad dog, that he could be incredibly violent. And so we just wanted to kind of rather than make him a total lunatic, in order to justify the mad tag, just to let that sit there, because there's a lot of references to his violence in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously your scene partner, Charlotte, she's also a co-writer on the film, a producer. I know this was a real passion project for her, having spoken to her. So how
Yeah.
did that play into the way you played that scene with her at all, knowing that
Well,
she has that?
no, I mean, I mean, she's terrific. It's obviously having, co-written it and being very involved in producing the film. This was very central to her and her character, the relationship with her dad. And that kind of also, informed what I was doing. It's always great to have a scene partner who's committed and concerned and knowledgeable, and so that made it very easy.
Yeah, and of course, Scarlett, again, we don't necessarily get into why, but we get a pretty good idea of why she hates her father. As you said, there's a lot of violence in their history. And what's it
Yeah,
like?
there's the beating her mother,
Yeah.
and there's it's obviously he was not a nice man in any way.
Yeah, well, it must be for you as an actor quite an interesting kind of dynamic to sink your teeth into, knowing that Scarlett has this hatred for her father, and he's almost toying with her a little bit, mocking her.
Exactly, exactly, and that's very often people who are hated like that do that.
Hmm.
They sort of turn it into a sort of a game to somehow lighten it, or I mean, I think you even see that with Trump from time to time. You know, that it's like, oh, I see how they hate me. Oh, you really hate me. Oh, and make it into a lighthearted thing like that, in order to sort of deflect it in some ways.
Yeah, and being in that very confined setting of that prison visitation room, does that help you at all to, those sort of surroundings to kind
Well,
of,
yeah, I mean, it meant that there was. I mean, we were obviously limited in our movement,
yeah.
and also limited in how you could respond to things. I mean, there was no room for really for flying off the handle or anything like that, because you have prison guards all around you. So it kind of very much put a lid on it and tightened it, and I think in a way increased the tension of it.
Yeah, of course. And he does seem, as I think we said, he seems almost irredeemable on the surface, and he seems to have
Yeah.
fun with the fact that he is Mad Frank. But what for you is the fun of playing a character like that, who maybe isn't a good guy and is just straight up bad?
Oh, I think he was straight up. I mean, he says to himself, "Listen, I was born like this. I'm rotten to the core.
Yeah.
You know, I'll never be any different. Don't fool yourself. You're not going to get redemption here. So I think it's very clear. He's got a very clear picture of who he is, and is kind of at peace with that.
And is that quite fun for you as an actor to play someone like that who
Yeah, I
maybe
mean, yeah, I mean, it's like it's kind of out in the extremes, isn't it?
yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I enjoy playing bad guys. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And of course, Neil Marshall directs this film. He's done a lot of very different projects in his career, horror, superhero. I think this is the
Mm.
fifth kind of criminal underworld for him. But what was it like to work with him? I know again it's just on this one pivotal sequence, but how did you find that, given all the directors you've worked with over the
Well, I
years?
mean, he was terrific. He's just, I just say he's worked in a lot of different genres, and he's very obviously very experienced and very knowledgeable. And when you're working on a fairly tight budget, as we were in this, again, it's great to have a director who's completely in control and in charge and knows exactly what he wants. So that was great.
Oh, amazing. And I know when I spoke to Charlotte, she wanted to call this film Duchess Part One originally. I know she's quite keen to hopefully expand this with them. I'm sure there's more that could be done with that father-daughter dynamic. So would you like to
Well,
deepen if you got the chance?
sure. I mean, read it first and see what it's like. But yeah, sure. I mean, you never. I mean, I think it's a character that could have an interesting background and could have a. I mean, if you let him out of jail, what would he do? I, I don't know.
Yeah, such a fun character in that sense. And I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
you starred in Layer Cake, which is a real all-time great gangster film. And I'm curious
Mhm.
for you, what do you love about this genre, whether it is be as an actor or as a film fan yourself?
Well, it's so these kind of films are so outside of your lived experience. They're. I mean, it's kind of like fantasy almost. You know what I mean? And not that I have violent fantasies necessarily, except on occasion when some of these right wing bigots get going. But no, I think it's that thing of it that it's so kind of out there. It's so extreme that it kind of gets your juices going as an actor.
I guess the same, going back to that sequence between the two of you, and as you said, being quite confined, there's almost that violence bubbling beneath the surface of Frank.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
as well, something. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the confinement and all that, it gives I think the scene great tension, which is always
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah, it's a fantastic scene. And you mentioned fantasy, and just while I've got you, I know, you played a very iconic Star Trek character with Miles O'Brien. And I'm curious, they're expanding that world now with streaming. Would you ever return to that space, do you think, or is that long gone
I
for you?
don't know, I think 7 years in a spacesuit was enough. I'm often asked that question, and you never say never, of course, but first of all, I wouldn't fit in it anymore, and I don't. I think I think both. I remember people saying at the time when Voyager got going, well, like, how many times can you go to the well? How many times can you revamp this? And they successfully did it with Star Trek, and they're still doing it. So good luck to them. But in terms of, I don't know. Do you want to see an elderly Miles O'Brien, or I don't know. It's certainly. I mean, it certainly is not top of my agenda of things I'd like to do at the moment.
Yeah, I completely understand. And you have had such an incredible career, but of course, a role like that, because it's a franchise, I know it has that very passionate fan base. How do you feel about that? Do you enjoy that, or is it almost a little bit,
Yeah, no, I always did. I mean, I never subscribed to that sort of, that Star Trek fans are nuts. I mean, a few of them are, but there's the odd one. But no, I mean, I always found Star Trek fans to be almost like kind of professional fans. They're very good at. They want to say hello. They want to say what they think, and then they leave you alone pretty much, you know, and that's really nice. That's not true of everybody, you know. And I've always found them, I mean, they're incredibly knowledgeable about the whole thing. I mean, way more than I am, or I was even when I was doing it, you know. I mean, they knew more about episodes than I did, which is extraordinary. So, you know, they're very committed to it, and I think it has had a very positive influence on people, the whole Star Trek universe, you know, in terms of both, you know, racially people getting along, you know, when you know, sort of, you know, aliens get along with other aliens and humans and all the rest of it. I mean, it's like, it's a very positive influence, and I think it was a very positive worldview that Gene Roddenberry created at the beginning, and they're very much stuck to that, you know. So I think that's all good.
Yeah, well, that's so cool to hear. And you know, then in contrast with a film like this, which is, I think, as you mentioned earlier, you know, it's a lower budgeted project. It's really that
Mm-hmm.
independent, quite cinema. For you, having been part of big movies, now smaller movies, TV as well, why do you think it's important for movies like this one to thrive? You know, when we've got huge blockbusters and
Well,
these big
you know,
projects.
the industry has changed so much over the course of my lifetime. I mean, you know, the great films that I grew up on, like in the late '60s and '70s, were. I recently worked with Malcolm McDowell actually, and it was great because I was able to tell him finally, and he says, "Geez, 60 years later," you know, and that the film that really made me want to be an actor was I saw when I was like maybe 13 or so was If. His one of his early films, a wonderful, wonderful film, but directed by the great Lindsay Anderson. And Malcolm was extraordinary in it. But it was about a public school in England, and a bunch of schoolboys who were in the territorial army, as they had it at the time, get hold of the weapons and decide to overthrow the teachers in the school. And as a 13-year-old in school, it was like, wow. And it just sort of, you know, I suppose in so many different ways, you know, socially, politically, artistically, filled a huge sort of void for me as a 13-year-old. That I was awestruck by it, and I think that's one of the main reasons I became an actor.
Oh, that is so incredible. Well, it's been an extraordinary career and plenty more amazing projects to come, I'm sure. So, Colin, thank you so much for
Lovely.
taking the time.
You're very welcome. Thanks,
Lovely
Josh. Bye
chatting
bye.
with you.